Hi, I'm Galen, and this little guy is Automaton the Otamatone. In this video, I'm going to give you a quick how-to on how to play a simple song, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, on the Otamatone. And I'm going to talk you through the different things you have to do with where you put your fingers, how you're going to move your hand in order to make it all work out. It's a little bit more involved than it would be on a violin, but fortunately, this little guy does not have a bow, and so while your left hand's going to be quite a bit harder, your right hand is going to have to do nothing more complicated than holding Automaton, or whatever your Otamatone is named, his or her mouth open. Next, I'm going to play for you first the basic version and the more advanced version. I'm going to be putting in some slides on the basic version. Those make it easier to play because there are two things we're going to do. One is putting down our fingers in specific spots. There are 6 of them. But there's going to be 3 different spots where we have to put our hand in order to reach those 6. Don't worry if it's confusing, I'm going to explain it all. But every time we move where our hand is, I'm going to slide a little bit, and you should too when you're learning this, because sliding makes it easier to get the hand into the right spot. So here's the basic version with slides. Secondly, I'm going to play a more advanced version that I'll also talk through later in the video. It's a little harder to play, but I think it fits the Otamatone a little better. If you'd like to make it a little easier to find the notes, especially if you don't play any stringed instrument or only play the guitar, you can use this stuff called pinstripe tape, which you can find at an auto parts store, and you might also find at a music store, to put tapes on the side of your Otamatone. Stick them on what would be the top part for you. For me, they would go like here, 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 here. If you're fingering with your right hand, which is completely okay to do, there's no particular reason why you need to use one hand or the other, then you'd put them on the other side of the Otamatone's neck. We call this part the neck. Fingerboard is the part you make noise on, the neck is the rest. And I will play the pitches for you and tell them what they're called, where you would need to put tapes for this song. The first one is called a G, and it's the G below middle C. So you would find the note and then put a tape right here next to it, a little strip of silver tape or some other bright color. The next one is an A below middle C. Then the B. And then the C. And this fourth tape is going to be much closer to the previous one than the previous 2 were. So first tape to second tape, long distance. Second tape to third tape, long distance. Third tape to fourth tape, short distance. And then you're going to need 2 more tapes that are long distances. This C to this D. This D to this E. And you can find the notes to tune to on a piano or an electric keyboard, or get a musician to find them for you, or find some sort of app for your phone. You should be able to find some way to generate those 6 notes so that you can put the tapes in the right place. It's also possible you may, if you taped up your Otamatone, you may have put more tapes than the number I told. If you have... If you have tapes on all those different notes, then when I talk about tapes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they may for you be 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 10. You're just going to have to translate. But 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10 is actually the right sequence that you'll use if you've thrown what I would call half-step tapes on your Otamatone. This may also be what you did if you play the guitar and you're used to it. So that's quickly what you would do if you wanted to put on tapes for this particular song. Now, when you're holding an Otamatone, whatever hand you don't use to play the notes, you're going to use to hold the mouth open, or not, depending on how loud you want it to be. But this hand, which will be your left hand if you play a string instrument and should be your dominant hand otherwise, you will play the notes with. You put your thumb behind what we call the neck. Don't grip too tight because you're going to have to be sliding this around, especially as you get better. You'll slide it around a lot. So don't grip tightly or you'll screw yourself up. The fingers, index finger is 1, middle finger is 2, ring finger is 3, pinky finger is 4. And they'll go on to different notes. You can put multiple fingers down at the same time on an Otamatone, and it happens to work the same way as a violin or other string instrument would. Whatever the highest pitch is, which means the closest to the head, is going to be the one that sounds. So if I put 1 here and 3 here, and then I put both fingers down at once, it doesn't matter what I do with this first finger. It's going to sound like the higher note. And high is this direction, low is that direction. That's very confusing for violin students. It's confusing on an Otamatone. But basically, the pitch goes up, so we call that up. The pitch goes down, we call that down. If you want to make it make sense, you can hold your Otamatone like this. And then up will really be up. I do not recommend actually doing this. So now that we've got the hand in place, we need to figure out where the fingers go. And unfortunately, there's 3 different places each of your fingers can go. We'll call this one the first position. You could argue a little over exactly where first position is on an Otamatone, but we'll skip that argument. 1 on a G natural, 2 on an A natural, 3 on a B natural, 4 on a C natural. Get your tapes there, and they'll be tapes 1, 2, 3, and 4. When we put our 1 on where the second finger would go in first position, on that second tape, our 1 is on A natural, 2 is where the 3 used to be, 3 is where the 2 used to be, and 4 is on a D natural. We're going to call that second position, and our fingers are still 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they're on different notes. If that sounds a little confusing, it's okay. It's confusing to beginners. And then if we put our first finger on the third note we're playing, we call this third position, and 1 is on a B natural, 2 is on a C natural, 3 is on a D natural, 4 is on an E natural. And that's the highest note you're going to have to play in order to play the basic version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star on an Otamatone. There will be one thing that always screws up violin beginners when they have to shift, or would screw them up if they had to learn how to shift, which is that the arrangement of your hand is going to be a little bit different based on what position you're in. When you're in first position, your hand will look a little bit like this. The third finger and fourth finger are going to be close to each other. When you're in second position, your second and third fingers will be close to each other. And when you're in third position, your first and second fingers will be close to each other. Just remember that when something starts sounding very sour or out of tune, it's probably because you're arranging your fingers as if you're in one position while you play in another. This is unfortunately something that's a little hard to get right, and violinists don't have to do it for a few years after they start, but on the Otamatone, it's necessary. Now I'm going to go through the piece telling you where to put which finger in which position, and I'm going to go through it first very slowly and second a little quicker. And if you are not using tapes, you should hear the sound I'm making and singing 1, 1, and match your pitch that you're making to the pitch I'm making and play the finger that corresponds to the number I'm telling you. Either 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1, 2, 3, or 4. And if you are using tapes, just remember which tape is which note for first position, for second, for third, and follow along on the correct tape. But still make sure you're playing the same note that I am. So we start in first position on our G natural. 1, 1. Now we will put down the third finger and slide all the way into third position. 3, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Now we're going to have to shift again back down to first position, and we'll do that shift on the second finger. 2, 2, 1. Now we're going to shift into second position, and we're going to do that with the fourth finger. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. And now we've got another shift. On our first finger, we're going to slide all the way down to first position. 1, 1. Shifting on the third finger up to third position. 3, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2. And I just shifted down to first position without telling you what I was doing. If you got lost, I shifted to first. And finally, 1. If you made it through that at the speed, good job. If you didn't, and you need a slower speed, I've written down the sequence of positions and fingers down below this video. It's going to be in text in the description. You can follow along with that if you've got tapes or some other way of checking the pitch, and that will allow you to go even slower than what I just did. And if you're a beginner, you may need an even slower speed. Now I'm going to play it a little quicker, still giving the directions, but I'm going to play it at a more constant tempo. So I'm not necessarily going to slow down when I have to say more words to tell you what you're going to do. You may not be able to follow along with this at first if you're just completely starting. Practice on the earlier one at first. 1, 1, shift, 3, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, shift in, 2, 2, 1, shift up to second, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1. Stay in second. 4, 4, 3, shift down to first. 1, 1, up to third. 3, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Shift down to first. 2, 2, 1. And there you have it at the slightly faster tempo. All right, here's the advanced version. I'm going to go a little quicker here because by the time you get to this, you should be a little better at playing the Otamatone. So the first phrase sounds like this. And we play it with, in first position, 1, 2. Shift to third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. So that's. For the second phrase, we start still in third position. 2, 3, 1, 3. And then shift down on a second finger to first position. 2, 3, 1. So that sounds like. For the start of the third phrase, we're going to shift back into third position on a third finger. Third position, third finger. And that is 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 3, and then down to a 1 in second position. This 1 in second position, you don't necessarily have to move your hand to play it. If you watch how my hand moves, I just stretched down with my first finger to reach what would have been first finger in the previous position without actually moving my thumb. You can also do it moving your thumb back as well. That's just up to you. So the third and fourth phrases both go the same way. 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 3, and then 1 in a lower position. I'm having a horrible time playing in tune while I sing. Fourth phrase is the same. And now we're going to shift again back down to first. 1, 2, 1 in third position. 2, 3, 4, 3. Same as the first phrase, and then the last phrase, 2, 3, 1, 3 in third position. Reach down for a 1 that matches the 1 in second position. Slide up to this note. This is a higher position. Surprise. 1 on this D natural, 2 makes this note, 3 makes this note. And here you can either put the fourth finger down on this note and play 3, 4. Or what I think works a little better, slide to this note on a 3 and play 3, 2, 3. So whatever you do, it should sound like. We would call this position fifth position if we're using the same position scheme. First finger would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would call this fifth, but really already by the time you get this high on the Otamatone, you're getting to the place where you're going to place your hands a little differently. I won't go into more detail than that. So try to match the notes there however you choose to finger it. And that's the advanced version. Finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the stuff on the back of the Otamatone and what you can do with it. I mean, this thing here is the power and volume control, and if you haven't found it, there's no sound coming out of your Otamatone, so I assume you know where it is. This other thing down here is the range switch. And there's actually a way you can use the range switch on this piece. The place, if you've put down tapes or learned where to put your fingers to play, you can put your fingers down to the same place, move the range switch. If you go to low, you'll get it in a different key. Now you're playing, if your Otamatone is tuned the same way as mine, now you're playing in the key of A major. And you may be able to play with somebody playing this on the violin, and it'll be the same notes, just at a different octave. And so on. If you move it to the high end, unfortunately, you're going to be in the key of A flat, which is a key that most people do not really like to play in. So if you use the same tapes to play in the high range, you may find that you're playing notes that are not necessarily so nice to play on a keyboard. You can, again, if your Otamatone is tuned the same way I am, you can play it in either the key of G major or the key of A major in the high range. But sadly, your fingers are going to be in a slightly different position. This note for me is right at the bottom of the range I can reach in the high range. So if your Otamatone is tuned a little bit differently, you may not be able to play in the same key in the high range. So you can do that if you want to play with the different ranges. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is with the mouth. I normally, if I don't have a good reason not to hold it open, I normally hold it open because this thing is pretty soft. You can close the mouth. If you close the mouth, you can practice while making less noise. It'll also change the color a little. If you plug the line-out plug on the back into a jack, it will not care if you open the mouth or not. So you can play with the mouth closed, but you're going to need a quieter environment in order to hear if you're playing the right notes or not. And that may be a little bit of an issue if it's noisy around you. So those are the things on the back, and that should be all you need to play this piece on the Otamatone. And next time I'll talk about a piece that's maybe a little more involved. I haven't decided what yet.